Greetings and welcome to the Golf Lovers United podcast. I am one of your hosts, Pro Golf Critic. You'll notice I'm doing this one solo today, unfortunately. Golf lover, he's got some family commitments. We know how summertime is in Europe. You know, they basically kind of take the whole summer off. So he's got some family commitments and everything. So I figured I would just kind of hop on and give you guys a really quick rundown summary of my time in the UK. Also talk a little bit about the Olympics, Olympic golf, and sort of how that can be potentially tweaked, and just some other news and notes from being boots on the ground in the UK, and also some other information I've sort of picked up over the course of the last couple of weeks. So first of all, LIV UK was really, really great getting over there for a week. It was a really great event. It was really so. This was my first international LIV event, which was really really great experience. You know, I've only been to the local US ones, and this was definitely the best attended of all the LIV events that I've been to. Estimates were probably a little over 15,000 per day. I'm not sure if you could get that many more people into JCB, just considering the infrastructure around the golf course. Not really conducive to sort of bringing a lot more people than they already had in there. So yeah, really well attended. A lot of support for the Majestics, a lot of support for Legion XIII, a lot of support for every team, really. Four Aces definitely had a really big following and support for them too. Bryson and the Crushers, of course, slowly becoming kind of the most popular team, quite as it's kept. Mostly brought by Bryson, but Paul Casey's also native to England and the UK, so he had a really strong following. Terrell Hatton, kind of the same thing for Legion. So those were kind of the big ones. Shout out to Jon Rahm for getting his first win. I know that this was a really important one for him for a variety of reasons. Obviously, he's taken a lot of flack for sort of going to LIV Golf when he did, which is kind of a whole nother story. And kind of, if you really start picking that apart, like you really start getting into kind of the everything going on with the sort of PGA Tour cult, as I call it. But that's kind of a story for another day. Maybe I've tweeted about it a bunch, but maybe that'll be something that I dive in at a later time. So yeah, shout out to John, shout out to Legion 13. They really turned out to be the best team this year. I mean, for the most part, like we got 4 wins. They're really doing well, doing a lot better than I expected, just because I wasn't sure what we were going to get out of Caleb Surratt and Kieran Vincent. They've obviously played a lot better than anyone than I even expected. And it's not the fact that Kieran Vincent has necessarily been a world beater, but he just has strategically timed good rounds. Like his best rounds happen to be when sort of all 4 scores count. And that's, part of the reason why they won 4 times this year. So certainly didn't see that coming at all. But when you also have Jon Rahm and Terrell Hatton as like your 2 horses on your team, like they're probably the best 1-2 punch at LIV. Let's be honest. The first year and a half, it was probably DJ and Patrick Reed kind of held that title. But now when you look at it, and then you can maybe say, Brooks, Taylor Gooch maybe earlier this year, but there's no better 1-2 punch than what Legion has. Let's be honest. So Jon Rahm's number 2 in the standings, and Terrell Hatton's number 3 in the standings. Whenever you have 2 of the top 3 players in the points, like you're just going to be. Chances are you're going to be the best team, and they certainly are. So. Shout out to all those guys. And also just shout out to all of the people at LIV too. Just, LIV has had a lot of headwinds, needless to say, the previous 2 years, just in terms of everything going on with in the professional golf world and And I really think that they are really starting to find their stride. I think everybody is really confident with the future of the league, sort of everything going with plans. Everything's kind of going according to schedule. And I kind of suggest everybody exercise a little bit of patience too, just with everything going on with LIV. There's going to be, another year or two of sort of getting everything sort of coalesced to the point where a lot of the rules in terms of, team movement and player movement is going to be resolved. There's going to be a lot of player movement for next year. I don't think there's any question about it. It's been made very clear to me and to a golf lover that, parity is a really important thing for LIV, and there's definitely two or three teams at the bottom of the standings that, I'm not really going to go into the individual teams, but who the bottom three teams are, and there's going to have to be changes to those teams in order to get them to sort of the next level. And part of it's going to be recruiting in new players, sorting out player movement for next year, which is, I know, something's going to be part of the potential agreement between PIF and the PGA Tour. Stay tuned for that. So yeah, there's definitely going to be more players come over next year. There's just a lot of things that still need to be sorted, and I don't think it's going to be like it was before, where it's like this environment where it's seen as LIV as sort of quote unquote stealing players, which they never really were. It's really more of a, hey, I'm going to go play in this league, and then you're going to ban me, so I'm no longer allowed to play where it was playing. So, again, a lot of this is going to be worked out, but it's been made abundantly clear to me that, the PGA Tour just, they're kind of in dire straits, honestly. There's a lot of bad stuff going on there. I think that there is really sort of three factors that they need to sort out here, in the next, 4 to 6 months. They've got some things going on with their TV contract that they got to sort out. They've got some really, really big and important sponsors that are kind of looking to renegotiate or get out of their contracts. And then there's also some potential litigation that's sort of not really getting a lot of publicity. But look, I think all of these three things are sort of coalescing, and honestly, even if they were able to strike a deal, I feel like the PGA Tour as a whole is a little bit in a death spiral, to be honest. And again, look, you don't have to believe me, but this is based on all the information that I've been, privy to, and everything, just analyzing the landscape and sort of seeing where things are. It's just very clear to me that one of these leagues is trending up and one of them is trending down. And I've been saying this pretty consistently for the last couple of years. And I think that everyone is just going to have to get used to the fact that the PGA Tour, as you know, it is never going to be the same. And I think the sooner that everyone realizes this, the sooner we will all be able to sort of come together and sort of move together and make a better pro golf world. So again, a lot of this still needs to be sorted out, and we'll have to see where things sort of net out here in the next few months. I don't expect anything to happen until after the PGA Tour season is over. I believe it's over really early September, right before Labor Day is when the playoffs end, and then obviously the LIV season ends a little later on in September. Then you sort of move into the fall. It's a little bit more focused on the European Tour, DP World Tour, Asian Tour. It's going to be a lot of events sort of overseas in the fall. So golf fans, that'll be kind of what we're focusing on, later in the year. So other than that, that's really it for JCB. Again, they've signed a multi-year deal, so they're definitely going to be back there next year. There was actually a preliminary schedule that got released. I believe it was Australian Golf Digest that sort of put it out there. And I met Evan Priest, who writes for them. Shout out to him. When I was boots on the ground at JCB, he's a great guy. Definitely not part of the correct golf media. Just FYI. I think he he actually does good work. I know he chatted up with Jon Rahm for a good amount of time. Got a lot of his thoughts on sort of everything going on with LIV and the Olympics and all that stuff. So, and he was also able to get a little bit of the scheduling out. So, so yeah, there's definitely. I think the cadence of the schedule next year is going to look fairly similar to what it is this year. Again, there's definitely some things that need to be sorted, but I think 2025 we're looking pretty good that this is kind of how it's going to be. It's going to stay at 14 events. Starting in February, it's looking like we're going to Saudi is going to be the kickoff event. Probably going back to Royal Greens per usual, and then the next week it looks like we're going to Adelaide. Which is a little bit earlier in the schedule. So, yeah, that'll be potentially back-to-back weeks. And then they kind of stay on a Asian swing going to, Hong Kong and Singapore in March. That'll be another swing of, back-to-back weeks there. And then right before the Masters, it looks like they're going to Austin, Texas. Have not confirmed the golf course there yet. Obviously, all the other courses have been on the schedule. You already know all the courses from Royal Greens in Saudi to the Grange in Adelaide, Hong Kong Golf Club, and then Sentosa in Singapore. Hopefully, Sentosa in March is a little cooler than what it was this past year when we were getting closer to May, but from everything I've heard about Singapore, it's pretty much hot year round, so I don't think there's going to be any differences there. So those are the first 5 events. Austin, Texas. I think it's Austin Country Club, but again, I think that's still to be worked out. We'll have to see if LIV continues its trend of sort of picking up PGA Tour venues. That obviously, look, I think the good thing about PGA Tour venues is that they have already proven themselves that they have the infrastructure to handle events of this nature. So I think that that's something to sort of be on the lookout for. So after that is when the schedule gets interesting. After the Masters, there's a little bit of a break in April. And then we go on another Asian swing. So we're sort of seeing a trend here. Looks like we are potentially going to Tokyo, Japan, late April, and then after that, South Korea. Again, I think these are 2 of the ones that LIV has been targeting for a while. And I think once they're able to finalize this, it'll tell you a lot more about sort of the overall plans for next year. Because, look, Japan and Korea are very, very important markets for LIV. I don't think there's any question about it. They would really love to have 2 teams that are sort of based in those areas. I know they would love to have a Japanese sort of East Asian team and maybe a Korean team as well. Obviously, if you're going to have flagship events in those 2 areas, you're going to have players to fill those potential spots. So, and there's a good amount of Korean players specifically that I think you could potentially target. People that we've sort of talked about on this podcast before. But again, I think next year is going to look a lot different. Like if they're able to sort of sort out your agreement, player movement's going to be a little bit more streamlined, so the players can do both LIV and PGA Tour, European Tour, whatever they want. Again, we'll just have to see. I've been sort of tipped off in terms of what they are trying to do, but until it gets actually finalized, we're just gonna have to wait and see. So after South Korea, we have a little bit of a break before the PGA Championship. So that's the first 7 events, and we basically have a 5-week break between potentially the South Korea event in early May and Washington, D.C. in early June, right before the U.S. Open, which is at Oakmont. So that'll be an easy commute from the D.C. area. Haven't really confirmed venue, but it would make sense they go back to Trump D.C. because they obviously had some success there. Had really good crowds there over the weekend. I think it was like 14,000 tickets that they said that they sold Saturday and Sunday. So at the time, it was the best attended U.S. event there in D.C. since then, I think it's been supplanted by Nashville. But yeah, I think that's a potentially good market. I mean, anything in the Mid-Atlantic Northeast is kind of a market star for professional golf now, just because. I mean, yeah, you have a couple majors that come there every now and then, and the U.S. Opens the next couple years are going to stay in the Northeast between Oakmont and Shinnecock in New York. But like in terms of PGA Tour events, there's none there's none that are consistently in the Northeast. I remember the BMW Championship, the second playoff event. They've sort of gone from Chicago. They're going to Denver this year, and I mean, who knows where they're going next year? But I think that was sort of one that they might go back to the New York market at some point, but or Boston. But they kind of go all over the place, and whenever we could get more stuff in the Northeast in terms of golf in the summer, I think it's a good thing. So from DC, obviously we do the U.S. Open. Then the week after that, kind of similar cadence to this year, where we had Houston, U.S. Open, Nashville. This year it'll probably be DC, U.S. Open, Nashville. So Nashville, same slot as this past year. Again, really successful U.S. event. Nashville's a market totally starved for high level professional golf. I think they showed out at the Grove this past year. I expect that event to only get bigger and better. So shout out to Nashville. So after that is when we sort of go international again, and this is where there's a little bit of uncertainty about. There is going to be an event in Europe right before the British Open, aka Open Championship. So I know there's been a push from some of the players to potentially go to a links course right before the Open Championship, just because they feel like it's going to be good prep potentially for Portrush next year. I've heard rumors about potentially going to Ireland, but that being said, I also know Valderrama signed a multi-year deal. So, and that multi-year deal could see them potentially skip a year. So instead of it being 2025, it might get moved to 2026, and then they would maybe put Ireland on a links course 2025. I think that's ambitious. I think we just need to I think they're probably going to stick to Valderrama before the British Open. But again, this is just a proposed preliminary schedule. And I remember when I got this information last year, I'd say roughly 8 or 9 of the events were set in stone, and then the others were sort of not quite settled in yet. So, I mean, look, some of the venues this year weren't settled until the season was like half over. So, I expect that to sort of get a little more. I expect to get a little bit more lead time in sort of finalizing some of these other locations. But again, we'll have to wait and see. So again, I think it's either going to be links in Ireland or Valderrama the week before the Open Championship, aka British Open, and then we will the week after British Open we will be going back to JCB, which is the event that we just had this past week. Again, really successful international event. It's another one I only expect to get bigger and better. It was super successful. So again, we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully they can improve on some of the infrastructure, maybe get some more people in there, because they were sold out all 3 days. And I feel like, if you improve some of the infrastructure, you could probably get up to maybe 20K, and I think that's probably the right number. But again, we'll have to see how it plays out. Then they're going to have a little bit of a break, and it looks like the season's potentially going to end with 3 events all in a row, similar to how the PGA Tour does their playoffs. It looks like potentially doing Mexico City. Again, venue hasn't been finalized, but love to see Chapultepec. I think that the World Golf Championship down there was super successful. You have some of the biggest stars in Mexican golf on LIV, between Abe Ancer, Carlos Ortiz, and then also just some other really big Latin American stars. Joaquin Niemann, obviously being the number one there. And I think that's a great location for them. I think I'm not sure about August though. Obviously, it's a little warm there, and I think the WGC down there was in like March instead. But I mean, they've already played in such extreme heat on LIV, and it's only you're not out there all day. Maybe they could do something where they're playing in the mornings instead. We'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, Mexico City, and then potentially Indianapolis the week after that, which would be the individual championship, and then going back to Dallas for the team championship at Merida. So that is the scheduling for proposed tentative. Just to be clear, tentative schedule for 2025. Wanted to touch a little bit on the Olympics too. The Olympic golf is going to be this week. Obviously, 60 players competed for the gold medal at Le Golf National. Shout out to Xander Schauffele for winning the gold medal last time in Tokyo. Will he be able to repeat? It's an interesting question. I mean, look, he's had a great season. He just is coming off of his first British Open win. He's won 2 majors this year, including the PGA at Valhalla. Could he also win the gold medal? I think it's sort of unlikely, just because I feel like, he's had such a great year already. He's probably going to have a little bit of a downtick here towards the end of the season. But I wouldn't put anything past Xander. Obviously, he's a great player. We'll have to see. So outside of him, obviously Scotty Scheffler is going to be one of the favorites. I mean, I like Jon Rahm. I think he's got a lot of experience on this particular golf course. Obviously, he played it in the Ryder Cup 6 years ago. There's a lot of European Tour players that have played this course a fair amount. Adrian Moronk is another one that's played this course a bunch. So I think that there's definitely some. Rory McIlroy's played the French Open here. He played the Ryder Cup as well. Tommy Fleetwood is another one. Tommy Fleetwood was an absolute monster in the Ryder Cup that year. So it seems like that course is a really good fit for him. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is sort of the feather in Tommy Fleetwood's cap, who hasn't really had a ton of success on the PGA Tour or in terms of winning majors, but he's had a lot more success in Europe, and I think that he's probably due for a big win. And I could certainly see him getting a medal for sure. So, except I gotta favor Jon Rahm. I also have to favor Joaquin Niemann. Like, Joaquin Niemann's playing really well this year. I think this course actually sets up really, really well for him too. He doesn't have any experience on this course, but there is something for him to play for. Like, if you win a gold medal, you're automatically in all 4 of the majors next year, and he's not in any of them right now. So if he doesn't win this, he's probably gonna have to go and qualify. Or again, it sounds like we're gonna have some sort of considerations for LIV players next year. And at this point, he's number 1 in the standings. It looks like he's highly likely to win the individual championship because there's only 2 events left. And he has a pretty sizable lead over Jon Rahm right now. So if there is any exemption, even if it's just the winner of the individual championship at LIV, he should be in all 4 majors regardless. But again, we'll have to see how it plays out. So yeah, those are probably the guys that I favor most. Some of the other U.S. team members, like, obviously, look, I mean, there's so many flaws in the Olympics. Like, I could probably do a 2-hour podcast on it, but between the selection process that's using sort of outdated and corrupted OWGR and just the format of the Olympics, like, it's just such a lost opportunity to really try to grow golf, and sort of limiting it to 60 players. There's way more than that throughout the world. Like, limiting the US only 4 slots just seems really unnecessary, and limiting like England to only 2, Australia to only 2. Like, Cam Smith isn't in this. Terrell Hatton's not in this. Like, those guys are top 10 to 15 players in the world for sure. So it's really, really sad some of these guys aren't there. It is what it is, though. Hopefully for 2028, we'll be able to figure something else out. And there has to be a team component to the 2028 Olympics. Like, at a venue like Riviera, like, it would be a shame to just like throw in the towel and waste it on another 4-round 72-hole stroke play event at Riviera that we literally have every year with the Genesis Invitational. just with a worse field. So there's like so many things that you could do. Like I've proposed that I think that the LIV Team Championship is setting a really good example for like how you could have 4-person teams and sort of have them going to battle and match play over 3 days to sort of figure out a champion. Like, I mean, there's plenty of countries. I mean, there's easily 12 to 16 countries out there that could field a really strong 4-person team. And whether that's a mixed event team, which I know they're sort of talking about, or a 4-person men's team, a 4-person women's team, like that's where like you could really do something magical and something special with just like bringing in the sort of national pride. Because yeah, in a lot of ways, golf is an individual sport, except that's the whole growth potential in golf at this point. It's not just from an individual perspective. It's really from this sort of team model that's being built now. So, and until the golf establishment and powers that be totally buy into that and understand that, we're just going to continue to get this sort of boring, unimaginative model that we've had for the entire time we've had the Olympics, and this is the third iteration of that. So let's hope next year we just get a little bit better situation. But again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. I have a good feeling though that we're going to have some really good changes the next 4 years, and hopefully 2028 at Riviera will be a really, really great event to sort of see is something that we haven't seen before in terms of players really able to play for their team, for their country. Like there's so much pride that a lot of these players have in playing for the country. Like I know someone like Jon Rahm and David Puig and Sergio Garcia, like they have so much pride in playing for Spain. Like they would be a really, really hard team to beat for sure. So and look, there's other countries that probably can't field 4 really good players, but like I mean there's at least 12 countries for sure. I'll have to sort of diagram that out another time. But yeah, so that's really it. We'll have to see how everything goes at the Olympics. Jon Rahm is definitely my pick. I'd love to see Joaquin Niemann win as well. Those are kind of my top 2. There's a lot of players that I like to see that aren't there. It is what it is. We got 7 LIV players, so it's more than I even expected. So yeah. So anyway, I'm going to end it now. Tight 30 minutes for this particular podcast. We've got a couple things planned here for the next few weeks. Golf Lover will be back here pretty soon. We'll talk about everything going on in the pro golf world. We'll sort of talk about golf politics, which is what we're sort of most known for at this point. And yeah, until then, I appreciate everybody listening. Feel free to become a patron for us, a supporter at glugc.com/support. Feel free to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Look, I've got personally a lot of haters out there that really, really hate my opinions about everything in the pro golf world, and like they are determined to vote down our podcast. I really need everybody out there that like supports us and like likes us to go out and give us that 5-star review. Write a little something about why you like it. Would really, really appreciate it. It's really going to help us out long term. We've got some really good sponsors coming on board here as well. We'll save that for another day. But in the meantime, thank you for listening, and this is me signing out.